Hello friends of Pandemic Poems. This is your humble editor, Kevin Soles. I am here with Patrick Horner,
Hi guys.
one of the poets in the book. His poem, Day 9, is what I'm going to be asking him about. And so hi Patrick.
Hey Kevin.
Thanks for meeting with me here. This is a gorgeous spot in Calgary.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet and hang out with you. Yeah.
When we were talking about meeting, you mentioned the river being important to you over these years, over the months of isolation in the pandemic. Did you come here?
Yeah, this was sort of one of many spots. You know, I kind of found that the river was a great place to come down to, for kind of a little bit of normalcy. You know, just kind of, it was there, and it's kind of a nice place to hang out, and plus, there's just kind of people kind of walking by and hanging out in more or less normal circumstances. So it was I found the river was kind of it is a great place, for all of us to spend time.
Yeah, I find it interesting because you said that the river was a piece of normalcy.
Yeah.
Because these features of the landscape change less in the pandemic than everything else. Everything in human culture is like altering day on day. And you're wondering what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And the river is there, and it remains, and it does the same thing.
Yeah.
The rain's still there. Yeah. So we didn't know each other before this book, and you were one of the many Calgary poets who volunteered, and I really appreciate that. I wonder if you could tell us how it came upon you that you were a writer. When did you discover the affliction? When did you begin? When did you start down this path?
I suppose it's a big question. I started kind of was drawn to writing when I was quite young. In elementary school and junior high, kind of started writing short stories, and it was something I've always kind of been drawn to. And then as I got older, it just was got more and more interested in it. I kind of started studying a little bit of creative writing in English in university and afterwards. And I kept writing. I think mostly it's just a way to maybe connect with people on a little bit different level.
So as you did, you're an engineer.
That's right, yeah.
And as you did your training there, you took English classes and creative writing classes alongside that training. Is that how it went?
Yeah, I guess in a way I was sort of fortunate that I wasn't very good at math and failed a lot of my first year engineering math.
Good for you. I'm sure the best engineers are like that.
I was sort of back I had to sort of postpone my second year while I redid my first year math, and there was actually that was kind of when I sort of filled the spaces with some English and creative writing courses.
That's awesome.
I really got into it then.
As a university teacher, universities have these special sections of English and writing classes, like writing for engineers.
I've taken
like
that.
Yeah. I teach communications in a applied ecology program. It's natural resources technology at Portage College.
Yeah.
So these people, my students, want to be out in the field, testing water, testing soil, dealing with insects, animals, and all that kind of thing. And they do not want to be sitting in a computer lab listening to the higher points of grammar and my daily writing exercises. It is good for them, of course. They come out with this like toolkit of different genres which they can write in, which will be necessary if their career takes off, right? And the reports, site reports, project reports, all that kind of thing. So it's good. But because they're these applied ecology people, they want to be in hip waders standing in a river.
No, it's true, but I think your ideas are only as good as your means to express them.
That's right. That is right. Hallelujah. That is the truth. Day 9 is on. Well, okay. I wanted to ask you about this other thing in Day 9. So Day 9 features something that I mentioned in the preface to the book, which is poets concerned with animality. Something about the pandemic is reminding people about their animal nature. Maybe it's the frailty of humans can imagine themselves as somehow superior, and then we're reminded of some aspect of our biology that makes us really vulnerable, and I think that maybe is what connects people to animals, but you were feeling connected to animals during the pandemic, and also the geography, the rivers, the ice. So I was going to ask you to reflect on your personal experience of why those things were on your mind.
Well, this piece is from kind of a larger collection that's about kind of set in Haida Gwaii, which was during the Ice Age, was a place that was likely missed by. There's sort of a theory that it was missed by the glaciers, and so making it what was called a refugium. And so there would be a lot, sort of, and I guess parallel to the pandemic in a way. Like you have this place where, surrounded by ice, there's sort of massive global change going on, and this place becomes isolated. And then I think that from a biological perspective, isolation is one of the things that really encourages evolution. There's something that creates a situation for evolution and change to kind of take place, because things that they're more on their own, they're more responding to a specific environment. And then interesting, the places like this, like all of the other plant and animal species in the nearby mainland and stuff like that would have been wiped out. And so what can be left are what's sort of called these relic species that would be extinct everywhere else on the planet, because they were sort of isolated from this massive change. They exist. And so this was kind of a story about these people going and sort of looking for these relic plant and animal species that were, again, probably wiped out. Would have been existing sort of only in this one place.
That's so interesting. And as somebody who follows developments in ancient history around the world, like if something new that's supposed to change our idea of what happened in the distant past emerges, I try to pay attention to it. And new excavations and discoveries under the water off Haida Gwaii are really changing our conception of what was happening with human beings during the Ice Age, because I guess now off Haida Gwaii and off the coastal part of BC, near Haida Gwaii, are these fishing weirs dating back something like 14,000 years before present. So that would be the earliest evidence of human activity in Canada. So that's just fantastic, and it has to change our story about the people back then.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Will you read your poem?
Yeah. This is day 9. At the close of glaciation, refugic otters were barely able to hold their own. Walking into the forest is unlike looking into the mirror. I pull the skin from my face so my flesh and bones can hear what I am saying. Usually, secret rivers are frozen much of the year. Centipedes crawl into my eyes, and butterflies land to take my red blood into their wings. Such a plastic species finds faces in the shadows. Changing habits demonstrate there is evidence of the other existing, a necessity during isolation.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Back to early in our conversation, we were talking about what doesn't change in the pandemic, like the rivers, the mountains.
Yeah.
You gaze at the mountains and it's the same as it was before. But I love how at the end of this poem, it reminds us that all of these things that we're doing, while we feel so isolated and unsure of the future, are things we do because we belong to a community.
Well, I think that was one of the, the maybe paradoxical, obviously things that probably feelings that created this book and things like that. But during the pandemic, then what it was, the initial lockdown, it was that massive feeling of isolation. But at the same time, sort of knowing that probably almost every single person on the planet was having a similar thought or a similar feeling at the same time. It was kind of, I think, at least for me, sort of unique. I'd never sort of had that feeling or that sort of sense before. Or even coming down and being out in public and sort of just know that everybody's just taking a break for an hour and getting out of their house and going for a walk and kind of sitting by the river, but sort of this very common situation that everybody's going through. That did kind of, I think that there is there's a sense of connectivity there, and you kind of, in a way, could kind of at times sort of feel the whole planet at once.